What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Fix It Garage and a tips and tricks video on this very nice BRZ. You might recognize it as Bob's BRZ. Today we're going to be doing a drive belt tensioner, a dipstick O-ring, and a wheel hub. The wheel hub is some leftover damage from that curb that he decided to slide on black ice into. He's standing right behind the camera, so he's giving me looks. But with that being said, let's get started right away working on this car. So we have the old and the new hub here. Something to think about when you're changing out your hubs for a bad wheel bearing is you're listening for a very particular sound. This one, when you were driving around 50 to 60 miles an hour, you would hear a noise from the right front, and we can determine based on that it's a rotational noise, it's this wheel bearing going bad. When checking one of these off the car, you can take it and you can kind of spin it and listen to it, and you might hear a little bit of a crunching sound. This one isn't super bad, but because he uses this thing on the track, probably a very good idea to change this out. The last thing you want is for this to fail when you're out driving this thing on an autocross track or a track day. So you get a nice shiny brand new one, and usually it'll come with all the studs in it, but he chooses to run really long wheel studs like this, so we're gonna be removing these from this hub and installing his extra long ARP studs. So now that we've gone over kind of the wheel bearing hub, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put that back on, swap the studs over, and get this part of the project done. That way we can start working on the drive belt, the oil dipstick, and the new tensioner. so we've got the new hub on with the ARP studs. This whole corner is put back together, so let's get the wheel on. We can move on to the next project. Okay, so when you get to this point, something you really want to do before you take off a drive belt is make sure you know how it's going to go back on. A really easy trick you can do is with a nice piece of paper and a pen, you can draw all the pulleys on there and kind of draw how the belt goes. So when you have to put it back together, you know how it goes on. Or if you have a cell phone, you can take a picture, which works just as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to draw all the pulleys. So we've got a nice big crank pulley here. This is weird. You've got your tensioner here, idler, alternator, another idler, the AC compressor, the water pump, and another idler. It doesn't have to match it perfectly, but you want to be able to have it in a way that you can kind of remember where the belt goes. So we can see the belt runs around the crank, over the tensioner, to the idler, the alternator, underneath the other idler, over the compressor, down all the way to the water pump, up around the idler and back. So that's how your belt's gonna go back on. This is something you can use when you reinstall the belt. So now you can go ahead and take the tension off of the belt and you can pull the belt off. All right, so we are ready to put the drive belt back on. We've got our nice little diagram and we've got the stopper in the tensioner so that it kind of keeps it fully. We'll start off by putting it on our alternator and our idler, and then we'll take the top end of the belt, go to the next idler, AC compressor. We'll kind of just hold it there like that. We'll take the other side of the belt, go around our tensioner and the crank pulley, and then we can take it down or up to our idler, another idler, and down to the water pump. Whoa. So with the bigger pulleys, sometimes it'll be a little hard to get the belt on. So what you can always do is take it off at a different spot, like up here at the alternator. Whoops, we'll feed it on like that, keeping the tension, and we'll feed it over our idler. Back over to the alternator where we will not slide it up and on. All right, and then what you can do, there's a stopper in this tension right now to prevent it from moving all the way. So you can get a little bit of play out of it and you can move it just enough to kind of get it on. So what you do now is you'll verify that everything is correct and on how it should be. Put your tool on your tensioner to kind of take the tension off this little pin. Take the pin out, now your belt is nice and tensioned. And now this job is done, so now we can move on to changing out our oil dipstick O-ring. So we had an oil leak from the oil dipstick. Here is the problem right here. You can see this O-ring. It's split, and Subarus are kind of known for having this issue with these O-rings on these dipsticks. I know I had my own issues with my car, but we've got a brand new O-ring, so we're gonna put it on, put a little bit of oil on the O-ring to help it go in a little easier and hopefully not do this again. So let's get that new O-ring on and get this thing installed. One little trick that you can use to get, in order to lubricate this seal before you put it in, take your dipstick, put it through the hole where the dipstick tube would be, pull it out, and you have nice fresh oil on there. And take a little bit of oil on your finger or a glove or a rag if you're smart, and then just coat that O-ring with it. Coating that will help it slide into the hole, but it also will not allow it to leak. This will help make for a nice good seal, so hopefully we don't have to have this issue anymore. All right, and just like that, we've got the new drive belt tensioner and the dipstick O-ring installed. With that, this whole project is finished. Just like that, we're all done. Car's fixed, drives great. He's now ready for the next round, and you guys learned a few tips and tricks on how to do drive belts and wheel hubs. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments section below. Thank you guys all for watching. As always, if you like what you saw, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to see more content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.